What's going on, everybody? Today, what I want to do is go over how to regulate your emotions. And the main reason why I want to do this is I got a few questions on that. People were asking me in the DMs what techniques you could use to actually regulate your emotions, because there's so many of them out there, between breath work, vagus nerve activation, stretches, tapping, and people are oftentimes overwhelmed. They don't know which technique to use, and it's complicated. I think social media, where it's the realm of information, there's so much information, it could be a little bit complicated, and we get stuck in analysis paralysis, meaning when we're so overloaded with information, we don't know how to choose. So today I figure I give what I think is the highest technique when it comes to actually regulating your emotions. And the technique is, it's a very, very powerful technique. The technique is, you don't regulate your emotions. You just simply experience them. You just simply allow them to be. You just simply let it pass on through. And for a lot of people, this is very, very confusing, because what most people don't realize is what is a negative emotion. A negative emotion, and I'm going to break it down very, very simply. And this is actually going to upset some people because they're going to think it's a little bit more complicated than what I'm about to say. A negative emotion, all it is your nervous system being very selfish. Now, what does that mean? Your nervous system, your ego, your mind has a preferred way it wants reality to be. So what does that mean? So let's think about the negative emotions. I'll name a few of them. Things like shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, anger. All of these emotions, the reason why these emotions come up within you is because your nervous system, because something happened outside, an outside reality, something happened on the outside that caused you to have this reaction, because your nervous system says, hey, that's not supposed to happen. So if you think of something like anger, let's say I walk into the house right now, or actually I'm about to go to the gym, and I only have about an hour, and I have a particular exercise that I want to do. If I get to the gym and the exercise machine I want to use is being used, I might experience a little bit of anger, right? And then not only that, let's say the person who's on the machine that I would like to use is just sitting there texting and taking forever on the machine. My nervous system, my ego might start to agitate me. And the reason why it would agitate me is because it prefers for me to be using that machine. Why? Because I only have a limited amount of time I should be on that machine. Let's think about sadness. Let's say something happened in the past and you're sad about it. Why are you sad about it? Because you would have preferred for it to not happen. Same thing with shame. Same thing with guilt. Maybe you've done things in the past that you're ashamed of, that you're guilty of, that already happened, that you would have preferred for it to not happen. So all of these negative emotions, all it really is just emotional blockages. You just have blockages within you because your ego and your nervous system, particularly if you're very, very negative, is selfish. You know, I have this joke where I tend to tell people, and you know, I go a little diabolical. I go a little bit of extreme to try to make a point that your nervous system and your ego and your mind believes it's God. Meaning, it believes that it should dictate how reality is supposed to be. And we see it all the time. The greatest example I like to use is like when your best friend votes for a different political person than you would have liked. You literally will break off a relationship with that friend of 10 years just because they voted for somebody you didn't like. Why are you doing that? Why are you having such a negative reaction? Because you believe that they should have voted something different. So if you understand that a negative emotion, all it really is that your nervous system is being selfish because it has a preferred way it wants reality to be. So again, your nervous system believes it gets to dictate how things go in the outside world. So, for a lot of us that are negative, and almost everybody's negative, and I coach a lot of people, and there's all of these regulation techniques, like the breathing techniques, the tapping, the stretching techniques, the fascia release, the vagus nerve technique. There's all of these techniques that you could do to soothe that negative feeling. But the problem is, when you go and soothe that negative feeling, the feeling is still going to be there within you. Why? Because you still have a preferred way you want reality. So, what you got to learn to do, and this is the highest technique when it comes to regulating your emotions. When a negative emotion comes up, you don't do anything. You just experience it. So for instance, that person across from you who has a different political opinion, when they start talking, you're going to feel a disturbance in your body. Your jaw is going to get tight. Your neck's going to get tight. Your chest, maybe your heart starts beating. And more than likely, either you're going to want to do one of two things. Either you're going to want to get away from them, or you're going to want to fight with this person. So what you got to do is, as opposed to doing that, is when this stuff happens, just accept it. Become aware, okay, I am experiencing anger, or I am experiencing sadness or shame or guilt. Become aware that it's happening within the body. In your physiology, maybe it's happening in your head, whatever. You become aware of it. The next thing you do is accept it. Simply allow it to be there. Which, by the way, I always say this, is extremely painful. Like, this is the hardest work to do. This is why people don't like doing it. This is why people like nervous system regulation techniques. They like breathing exercises. They like stretching exercises. They like to tap themselves to distract themselves from the feeling. They like to put on YouTube. They like to put on music. They like to go for a walk. They like to go work out. All of this stuff is basically what you're doing is just avoiding the fact that you have this feeling. You have this preference. What you have to do, and if you truly want to heal yourself, if you truly want to clear yourself, is that when these feelings come up, you accept it. You allow it to be there. And it's very, very painful. Now, what you notice is when you start to accept it, when you start to allow the feeling to be there, and you just focus primarily on the feeling, what you'll notice is as you continue to watch and experience it, this feeling will start to move. It'll start to flow. It'll start to morph. It'll start to transmute. It might actually turn into a different emotion, a different sensation. And attached to that emotion might be another story. You'll notice that your mind starts to race. You'll notice that your mind starts to come up with reasons why you're feeling this way. What I'm going to ask you to do in this scenario, while you're practicing, is don't get attached to the story. A lot of people are too attached to their stories. Oh, the reason why I'm feeling like this is because of X, Y, and Z. Well, how about you allow X, Y, and Z to just be the way it is? Accept it. Now, in reason too, of course, because, I say things like this and people say, well, what if they're hitting you? Or what if there's physical harm coming your way? Yes, of course, do something about it. But we're talking about emotional and psychological. Just allow it to happen. And when you start to allow this energy to flow, what you notice, it'll transmute into another emotion, and in time, it'll start to release. And then from there, once you deal with the feeling, once you release the emotion, because that's all you really have to do is watch it and experience it. From there, you can make a decision on what to do. So for instance, if somebody is saying something very, very disrespectful to you, you want to be able to handle that from a place of clarity. So yes, maybe let's say it's a child, your child is screaming at you or cursing at you, you don't want to respond. You don't want to react from a place of anger to where you do something to the child that you might regret later. However, maybe it's a good idea to use anger, meaning you consciously choose to use anger to scream at your child to make sure they don't do that again. So there's a difference between reaction and responding. So I want to make that clear, because sometimes people say, well, should I just let my child scream at me? No. But what you shouldn't be doing is reacting automatically from a place of anger. You could use anger to respond appropriately. That way the child doesn't make that decision again. But this is what you got to do, is you got to learn that when your emotions, particularly these negative emotions, come up, all they are is blockages. Why are you blocked? Because you have a preferred way you believe reality is supposed to be. This is why everybody's miserable. The cause of suffering is actually preference. That's what's the cause of suffering is. Everybody has a judgment of the way reality is supposed to be. And if you could just learn to accept reality as it is, meaning mentally, psychologically, and emotionally. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it was about 4 days ago, somebody sent me a reel, an Instagram reel. And basically on the Instagram reel, some kid, he was talking about Buddhism and accepting reality as it is. And the guy, I guess he was debating, was like, well, if Hitler was coming into Germany and he was running through Europe, based off what you're saying, should you just accept it as it is? No, that's not what it means. And the kid didn't know how to respond, because you could tell he doesn't actually practice it. He was just speaking this stuff. If Hitler is actually coming into Germany, what you have to do is accept the fact that it's freaking happening. Hitler's coming into Germany. He's trying to take over Germany. You have to accept the fact that, hey, this is what's happening. Now, what are we going to do about it? Because what most people do is if something extreme like that happens, what most people do say, they go like this mentally: I can't believe this is happening. This is not supposed to happen. In psychology, they call it denial. We live in a state of denial, like, I can't believe this happened. Well, it happened. It already happened. Hitler is coming into Germany. Now, from that place of clarity, understanding that Hitler is coming into Europe, he's trying to take over Europe, so to speak, what are you going to do? This is what it means to be in the world, not of it. Meaning, you have a job to play. You have a role in reality. You get to participate in reality. Because a lot of people think of this, like when I say accept reality, they think of it as being lazy. They think of it as being passive. No. What I'm saying is accept the fact that it's happening. It's happening. What are you going to do about it? And this is where it gets lost, because there's a lot of people in the spiritual community, and I hang out with a lot, well, I used to hang out with a lot of them, because I live in New York. I go to the city, and they're very, very passive. They're very, like, accept reality, nature, one with everything, Maya, chi, but they're lazy. And then at the same time, I've said this in the previous video, like they believe they're like, we gotta resist the capitalist society. But at the same time, we go to an expensive vegan restaurant. When it's time to pay the bill, they all look at me because I'm the one that actually works. But I digress. The idea is, how do you regulate emotions? You don't. You accept them and experience them fully. And when you do that, they pass on through. Now, how do you do it? Again, release your preferences. Realize you're not God. Realize you don't get to decide how the present moment is supposed to be. Learn to become interested in the present moment, as opposed to trying to make the present moment interesting. And if you do that by following this 4-step process, which is become aware of the feeling, which is usually in the body, accept it, allow it to be there, which is painful, by the way. Allow yourself to experience the pain fully. As you do that, it'll start to flow. And then in time, this is not a one-time thing. In time, it can be, but in time, that the more you practice this, and practice with the small things. Like right now, I'm in the practice. If I go into the gym and somebody's on my machine that I want, and I prefer I be on that machine, if I start to experience agitation because the kid's texting on the phone, and I only have like a short period of time, I could practice being agitated in that moment and letting that go. Now, when I practice this, what I should do, as opposed to going up to the kid, because more than likely my ego is going to say, hey man, can you get off the machine? Are you going to use the machine because I got to get on? I could come from a place of clarity and make the appropriate decision. And when you do this, your life is a whole lot better. So that's how you regulate emotions. You don't. You just experience it, accept it fully, and allow it to pass on through. So I hope you guys got value from this. If you did, as always, leave comments in the section below. Peace.